Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here from the Kayak Fishing Show live. Well, this is actually a recording of a live. On this show we have my friend Wohlwend-Penny joining me here. He is with Kayak Bass Fishing, works with the tournaments. He also works with Torqeedo and is a teammate of mine on Jackson Kayak. So we're going to have all kinds of things to talk about. So stick around, it's going to be a great show. Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here from the Kayak Fishing Show live, brought to you as always by Ballast Point Brewing Company. We're going to have a little grapefruit sculpin today. It will help with my stress from dealing with all the video software problems we've been having. A reminder to everyone, if you want to participate in the conversation, if you want to ask questions, anything like that, make sure you're watching on the Jim Sammons page. I know this is a reverse of what we normally have, but we're having some issues connecting with Facebook from this program, connecting to the Jim Sammons page. So you need to make sure that you are watching on the Jim Sammons page. That's the one that's got the picture of the Kraken logo up on the top of it. So I'm just looking down here and making sure that I can actually see that it is going live. Although it looks like I'm frozen. I shouldn't watch myself. So anyway, like I said, so that's kind of the issue here. So make sure you're watching on the Jim Sammons page. Make sure you shoot us some questions. That always makes for a better show. You know, I'm going to have my guest Wohlwend-Penny here with me. He is with Kayak Bass Fishing, the tournament series, all that. He's very involved in that. He works with Jackson Kayak and he also works with Torqeedo. So a lot of stuff that we can ask him questions about. First off, before we do that, I wanted to share a couple of things. I just got this, a new Axiom 9-inch. That's going to be mounted very soon on my Blue Sky Angler 360. So we'll be doing shoot a video on that and how that all went together. Very soon. Another thing I wanted to show you was I've been showing a couple of pictures lately on the page of these new spool tech lures. They've been around a little while actually, but what's new is that Patrick Sebeil's Band of Anglers bought this company, so he can then take the patented technology here and then work it with some lures that he's been wanting to make. Now, I've been fishing with these things in Louisiana as well as here, and it's one of these lures that just catch fish. When you're winding these things in, they have such a good tail thump. You can actually feel the tail thump through the tip of your rod. The innovative thing about these is that the hook deploys on a 12-inch cable. So you could have a lighter fluorocarbon leader going to the bait. When a fish hits it, this hook deploys, and I'll try to do it here. It's a little bit difficult because it's quite stiff, especially on a new one. But, oh, there we go. If you can see that hook deploys, and that is on cable. So you can have that lighter leader up on the head of the lure, and then if you are getting to those toothy fish, you've got that wire cable. Also, it gets the lure away from the fish's mouth where it can leverage it to pull the hook. And then all you do is there's a little crank here, and you just wind that thing back in. Like I said, I've been using it. I got some really nice redfish on it in Louisiana. Got some bonita and calico bass on it here in San Diego. They're just great lures. They come in a couple of different sizes. And again, since Patrick just got this company, I know he will be doing some innovations on this and designing some other lures that work with that technology. So just wanted to share that with you. Again, that's Spool Tech, and really great lure. They come with a spare tail as well. So that was just a couple things I want to show you before we got going with Rich. I'm going to bring him up onto the screen right now with no further ado. Wohlwend-Penny.
Oh, my Tito's plug for the day.
Oh, there you go. Good, man. Well, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I don't have a Ballast Point beverage, but I'll just sip with the dark side of the bottle.
You can sip on whatever you like. A cold beverage is a good beverage.
It is a cold beverage.
Is that a Lagunitas?
Mm-hmm.
Little something.
Yeah,
something.
I got a little something going on over here. All good.
Right on. Hey, Dave Fowler is watching from chilly, rainy Ottawa. I heard it was getting a little chilly up there. I saw Roberto posted a little bit of snow the other day. So already getting cold in Canada. It's about what is it here in San Diego? About 85 today.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a hashtag we can't relate moment.
Yeah, it's toasty, warm, and dry. Hey, John, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Gino, thank you for joining us, man. And again, I hope we get some more people on here and people share this around, because this is kind of going a different route than what we normally do. Again, if you are watching this and you want to comment, and I'm just going to have to keep saying this over and over, is if you want to participate in the conversation, if you want to ask questions, you got to be doing it on the Jim Sammons page, because otherwise we're not going to see it. Gino, I hear Richard Penny is famous. Richard, are you famous?
I don't think so. Probably infamous. He's probably more along the lines. Hey, Gino, what's going on, man? You want to talk about that guy's been tearing up the bass scene here in California this year. So
really,
yeah. He in fact he doesn't have to pre-fish anymore. He just shows up. I think I'll go fish this cove and puts a sleighing on him. So
wow,
he just got through living with Delta.
Bass fishermen got some talents. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't do it, but there just seems to be a lot more going on. Pre-spawn, post-spawn, all this stuff you have to think about. The cold weather just seems to affect things a little bit different than what I'm used to with fresh water. Hey, Ulf, my good friend in Sweden, how are you? So a little bit about Richard. You are in the Navy?
Oh yeah, career Navy guy, Command Master Chief. Getting ready to retire here in about the next 6 months. So just kind of chilling, hanging out, as people can probably tell. Like, what's up with that goatee? I'm working on my Jim Sammons look.
There you go.
That's between that or the full beard. I don't know what the fishing game looks like, so I'm trying to jump in with it. But yeah, just getting done wrapping that up, and the air quotes director of operations for Kayak Bass Fishing. I don't even really know what all that means anymore, but been working with Chad for the last several years, really working on building the tournament scene in California, and then just kind of taking over everything in the U.S. So, but it's a great growing scene, great community. Thrilled with it. So it's a good transition for me to go from the military side, squeezing over and then dealing with a bunch of anglers.
Well, first off, of course, we thank you for your service. Especially being a career guy like that, that's a long haul to be in there. So
yeah, it's 29 years come here in January. So
wow, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So the Kayak Bass Fishing Tournament Series. I mean, we've said it before. I mean, this was a long time ago. If there is one growth aspect where this sport really has grown the most the last few years, is in the freshwater bass market. And the bass guys like to do tournaments. They're very much into that tournament scene. So
very much
what
so.
Chad has done has really been cool.
Yeah, it's been really good. And this whole thing has kind of come on the back of Chad's TV show and YouTube that he's kind of developed over the last couple of years as well. Been very fortunate that he's managed to garner some sponsors and kind of work that show sponsorship into, well, how about putting some stuff over here towards KBF? And so that piece has all worked, and it's just continued to grow. So from our end, I think it's a good thing, and we're getting to that stage where instead of I guess it just all kind of focused on Chad, we're looking at getting all these anglers, these up and coming anglers, and some of them that are just, they're just freaking badass to begin with. They become the face of KBF. And we've got some really good sticks out there, guys that are fishing FLW, guys that are fishing BASS, that they can go hang with those guys as well, or have hung with those guys, and for their own reasons, they're doing the kayak thing, and some as well as the bass boat thing. But it's been a really good community. I've enjoyed the community. Coming from a bass boat team myself, I've really gotten a kick out of out of the way this community's built, the mindset, just the people, has probably been the strongest pull.
Well, and of course you can see why, when, Chad can bring in things like, just for instance, I mean, I put on tournaments for a long time, and, our biggest thing was, giving away a kayak to a winner.
Right.
We actually stopped doing that and made a monetary, given $1,000 or whatever it was to the winners. Mainly our things were all charity events. But I mean, yeah, Chad's deal, I mean, that talk about taking it up to the next level. He took it up several levels, and you can see why that's drawing a lot more people into the competitive side of it. Yeah.
Well, I refer to Chad as he's that good idea fairy. And it's like I'm trying to get 2019 tournament schedule done. I've got a lot of tournament directors throughout the U.S. that are really working hard. Chad's already into 2020, 2021, 2022, and so that's all. I think that's what he really understands is, hey, this is where we want to go. He looks out the window, thinks big thoughts, and then looks back and says, okay, you guys kind of figure out how to make all this stuff happen. So.
Well, that's it. I've always said about Chad, one thing is, like, he throws a lot of shit at the walls. Yeah. And some of it sticks, some of it doesn't, but he's constantly throwing more out there.
Yep.
And coming up with ideas. And I can really respect what he's done. And I certainly respect how he's grown that tournament to the point where, national champion wins $100,000.
Yeah, it was $100,000 last year. It's gonna tweak down a little bit initially going into 2019, but by the time you look at bonus bucks and all the other stuff, the money that's going to get thrown out there at the national championship here in 2019 is going to be ridiculous. In all honesty, I mean, that event, is really just become a great big spectacle. You've got a lot of sponsors that are coming on board. Tourism bureaus. So it's one of those things where you're going to see a great collection of kayak anglers, guys that have, guys and gals have been busting their ass all year, the year before. They get to go to that thing. It's just a great community meetup as well, where you see anglers, sharing a lot of water, which I will tell you, you don't see much on the bass boat side. It's like, get the F away from me right now, stay outside of me unless you're close friends. And, we just did a tournament at Toledo Bend, and the guys that fished 1 and 2, finished 1 and 2, were fishing in the same damn cove. I mean, they didn't plan on fishing together, but they showed up there, and it kind of played out for them,
Right. Well, with the kayaks being considerably less invasive, then, you're not going to have some guy come blowing by in a bass boat. So you're not invading the water.
No, we've got guys that blow by us on a bass boat. That's another thing as well, is you've got the guys that they either A, don't see the kayak, B, they act like they don't see the kayak, C, they don't take you seriously. But most of the time, the way I've seen it is when you get back to the boat ramp and, those guys are doing their weigh in and we're doing our, awards presentation, that's when they go, oh shit, they just did a tournament and they're getting paid 10 times what we are. Yeah. And let's don't take into account how much money you got invested in that big, $70,000+ bass boat you got.
Yeah. Those are not cheap. James Snyder says, hey boss.
Yeah. What's going on, James? We got
Christopher says, Richard is the voice of reason.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Easy now.
Timmy Dixon, hi Richard.
Timmy, what's going on, man?
Again, we thank everybody for joining us here and talking a little bit. We wanted to touch just real briefly. It's certainly not something we want to pound into the ground, but there was an incident at the Toledo Bend tournament at the pre-fish. You basically have firsthand knowledge. It is very, very sad. Rebecca Golden, one of the regulars, and I didn't know her, but you did. Did pass away during the tournament. And I just thought maybe because there's been a lot of speculation as to what actually happened. Maybe you have a little bit more insight.
Well, I mean, it's a tough topic. Rebecca, first and foremost, I would just say she was everything that was right about this sport and about this community. Fantastic lady, great angler. And if anybody, if you have not had the opportunity to watch the highlights, and then the angler focus that I see Kurt's just put think her just put stay golden up there.
Yeah.
But the angler focus that KBF did on her prior to the national championship, it aired, just before it, but you look at her on the water and listen, I mean, there's more beeps going on in that video than I think anything else when she misses a fish, but she is a great individual. She is going to be dearly missed, but just to kind of sum it up, they were out, there's a group out pre-fishing on Wednesday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It was Wednesday. Last week was just kind of a blur. Out pre-fishing, and everybody's people were going in, and she wanted to check out this one cove. And so she headed over to that spot, and later that evening, no one had heard from her. So they started doing the search. They found her. I'm not going to get into the time and all those aspects, but the bottom line was, they found her right next to her kayak, hat on, sunglasses on, PFD. The county, and this is on the Texas side, it's not the Louisiana side, the county didn't really want to deal with the autopsy because they just, accidentally, either drowning, whatever it was. But the coroner, just looking at her and the condition of her when, after they'd got her back, was either an aneurysm or a heart attack. So not one of those things where, this is not one of those, this angler wasn't wearing a PFD, this angler wasn't doing this.
Right.
Nothing like that. So huge call out to the guys, and I'm not going to, go through their names and stuff that went out and did that search party. That was something. I mean, the county showed up without even a damn vessel, and the group just said, yeah, okay, whatever. And they launched at, midnight, whatever it was in the morning, after midnight, and they went out and did their own search party, and had to bring her out so they could finally put her in a boat and bring her in. So it was a very somber event. It's kind of like Chris just put up, gone but never forgotten, and she won't be. Her impact, I think, on all of us, just as a person, you take the fishing stuff away, just her day to day and her mentality about everything, and her passion for the sport is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I guess if there's anything that could be learned, I mean, always wear the PFD. Maybe that, obviously she passed, but it made it easier for those people to find her. If you're not wearing a PFD, you're talking about a long, drawn out recovery process. Also, when you can, I enjoy fishing by myself. I like getting out on the water by myself sometimes, but having a partner out there in the general vicinity with you is always a good idea. So, it's a very sad story, and again, we don't need to dwell on it, but just, hopefully people can learn a little bit from it, and maybe take her as an example. Maybe we'll try and get that link to the video you were talking about, that feature about her, because that would be pretty cool to see.
It's cool, and I think that one piece of it is just, the takeaway from Rebecca, period, is just that passion and drive for the sport and the community. Right. And that is a thing. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to miss. She had a knack. I've told several people this. She had a knack for calling me during I'd be watching an Astros baseball game, and I'd get a text message or a phone call, and it'd be her asking a question, but it's guaranteed it would be in the middle of the game. If I got a text, it was okay. Here's Rebecca, and here she's got another good question. But she was a pleasure to talk to. I mean, just everything that she was about will be missed.
It sounds like it. Frank Brown says he just watched her video. She seemed like a very genuine and passionate about bass fishing and kayaking. It's obvious she will be missed. I don't even know how ACNJ. Rebecca is my shiro. that's very cool. So let's move on to bigger, not such a down subject. The tournaments themselves are growing. And how's that doing? I mean, because I know a lot of that stuff is on more East Coast, Texas, that sort of thing. Is it growing here in California, the kayak bass fishing?
I'll tell you, from a kayak bass system, I mean, Texas has been its own self-supporting thing for years. I mean, Texas, they've got a variety of series that they do. Local club events are huge. They've been huge for quite some time. we're starting to see, it's obviously Southeast has been kind of that mainstay for several years. The Northeast, I mean, up at New York, Jersey, everywhere is growing. California's seen some great growth over the past couple of years. I mean, crap, when I started out here, excuse me, that beer's going here. When I started, I mean, we had like 3 KBF members. We had no kayak bass fishing scene in Southern California, and there was a defunct, half-ass, ran, whatever, didn't survive thing going up around the Sacramento area. And that, through a variety of things, has changed from, you've got California is probably the fastest growing side of KBF that we've seen. It's one of the top 3 states now as far as KBF membership goes. Sitting actually, I think California's now number 1 or 2. Tennessee and Texas are the other ones. So Texas is growing at a high rate of speed. Obviously, Tennessee's got a big head start on everybody. But these scenes are really taking off, and it's just a matter of, I think we just have to continue to run quality events, and that's the deal. Is it's got to be fair shared across the U.S. So that when you start talking Angler of the Year and all of those things, the guys in California or really the West Coast, because it's the Western region, Texas and everywhere else, New York, Jersey, Indiana, whatever, just grab a state out of there, that everybody's got kind of that same opportunity to fish. So we had several things kind of combined this last year. In the years before 2019, we're going to break a lot of those things out. So we've got the regions broken up, and 5 actual events per region. So it's starting to actually look very solid. It's the regions will turn into a regional championship for the top qualifiers. That'll go to a final championship. So you'll see at this time next year, we will have had an event out, in La Crosse, Wisconsin. That'll be our trail championship series. And that's where you're going to see, hey, look, here's your top competitors and fishermen, consistent fishermen from each region that got to go fish against each other. And then you're going to see out of those consistent 6, who's going to make it, who the top fishermen are. So that's been one of those things a lot of our anglers have, I don't want to say complained about, but asked for. But it's fishermen, and those guys that are watching, they know I'm giving them a hard time. But what's Brad just say? How soon are we going to see each event for the regions? Brad, if I could have it to you today, I would. We're probably looking at a week away. So, we're getting to where we need to be with them. I'm really excited for 2019. We're going to have a few, fewer events, so everybody can actually manage their life. We actually hit everybody in the Southeast region up last year with way too many events, too close together. I mean, guys are calling me in like April and May and go, dude, I can't go fish another event. I'm broke. You guys just did like 3 events back to back to back, and we traveled from this state to this state to this state. So we're getting there, but it comes with a lot of these anglers. A lot of positive feedback, a lot of negative feedback. But you've been around this long enough. It's feedback, and you've got to listen to it. It's unlike the Navy, where like a bitchin' sailor is a happy sailor. It's not always the bitchin' angler is a happy angler. So take that all with a grain of salt.
Yeah, well, I used to say, it's like people would complain about one of our tournaments. Is like, well, step up and help. You're complaining about stuff, but you're not offering any solutions. You're just complaining. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. We
offer solutions.
We've actually got that. I'm very, very blessed with a lot of really good tournament anglers and tournament directors and guys that are like, we're asking like, hey, what do you need from a monetary? They're like, monetary? We don't need anything. We do this for free. And I'm like, monetary. We want to do like, I want guys to, when they're doing the awards thing, I want there to be free food, because when we do a SoCal event, we've got fish tacos, we've got beer, that's provided by, one sponsor or another. So with that after party, the awards deal, it is just that. It's a big get together.
Well, that for me, tournaments, that was always I never liked being in tournaments. It's not my thing, but I loved the social aspect of it. I loved getting together afterwards and just talking fishing and bullshitting, just.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, it's gotten to the point now, a lot of the events out here, we get together the night before. There's a get together at a bar, whatever, the night before. And half of those guys you may not even see on the water until after cartoons are over the next morning. They don't care. They're having a good time. And a lot that is the fun part about this. Everybody's out there to have a good time and And it doesn't mean that just somebody may or may not get a little tank the night before doesn't do well, because we've seen those guys go out there and just slay fish the next day. You know,
David Brooks said, bring more events up towards Midwest. And
we are working on all of that. And that's that thing too, David. I'll tell you that the biggest thing that we're seeing right now that we really need to work on, I say we need to work on, it just helps, is as we start bringing all these events out, is getting people registered early. I think that's that biggest piece. So we know what we can tell the sponsors, tell tourism bureaus, and we know how to plan. And that is that piece of it. That's why we want to get the tournament schedule out, let everybody see how their plan is, and then, you know, just keep pushing forward. And as we watch areas grow, you're going to see more events pop up in regions, and, you know, more regions develop. I'd really like to see our Southeast region next year kind of break up into 2 segments. And, you know, the Pac Northwest in Perfect World has their own segment, you know, or their own region. So a lot of progress, a lot of things to, you know, to push for, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Evan Morganson says the best thing about this sport is how convenient and affordable it is. As the sport popularity increases, do you see entry fees into tournaments increasing?
Great question, Evan. I'll tell you, Chad and I have kind of, and Christy and Joe and a lot of others have talked about this very thing. And one of the things we're looking at is, you know, we'll probably find that comfort zone. I mean, this last year, the trail events were 75. I don't know if we're going to increase that much, if at all. But I think what you'll see in 2020 is 2 sides of that. You'll see the amateur side and the pro side. So, you know, if you're ready to kick it up a notch and get into that level of tournament fishing, then that entry fee is going to be higher, separate payouts, all that kind of stuff. I think that's really where we're going to go.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, as you're getting started, you know, and learning to be a tournament angler, you're at one level, and, you know, and then your prizes are based accordingly as well. But, you know, you do get into these high dollar ones. Well, bills got to be paid, you know.
That's a fact.
And that's the thing, is everybody thinks everybody's doing everything for free, but, you know, bills do have to be paid.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question from Ryan Nolan. In regards to trolling motors, will the host clubs be allowed to choose to allow or not allow them, or will they be allowed across the board for KBF trails?
Great question, Ryan. We've, in the past, we've allowed the host clubs to kind of dictate the terms on that. I think it's something we'll continue to look at. It really, obviously, if, let's just say it was Minn Kota or Motor Guide or Torqeedo, everybody knows it'd be Torqeedo, but, you know, I'll plug the other ones just for entertainment value. If that's your sponsor, then at the end of the day, you know, that motor is going to be allowed, but or typically would be the case. But I mean, that's open to discussion. I mean, there's going to be certain events where, you know, like the Three Rivers Throwdown, we'll do some point during on one of the regions. That's a river event, so I don't know that anybody's even going to be thinking about putting Torqeedo on, other than Brad Case. I mean, he'd do it, but.
Right. Well, you know, my thing is, and you know, I've got Torqeedo motors. I'm going to put dual Torqeedos on the Blue Sky just for fun. Yeah. I think they're fun as heck. I personally still don't see them being allowed in tournaments. You know, I've heard Chad saying, we've had this discussion, saying that it's not an advantage. I say bullshit. Having a motor is an advantage. Now, being the best angler out there is the biggest advantage. But if you're talking a multi-day tournament, because I can tell you just firsthand, I mean, I was just in Louisiana and using the electric motors day in and day out in some windy conditions was a huge advantage. At the end of the day, I wasn't just worn out from having to paddle in those conditions. I could set myself up along a bank, put it on its lowest speed, cruise along that bank, and cast to it. So the saying it's not an advantage to me is just not true. It is an advantage. Now, I understand the fact that, hey, everybody has the ability to put one on. If you want to put one on, if you want to compete in this tournament, and then you can put one on. So I understand both sides, but
well, I mean, and that's the thing too. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, from my perspective, one of the things that I do like about when we have open launches is people will typically get as close to their honey hole as they can. Right. When fishing these events. So if they're doing that, do they need a motor? Well, they may not. Is it an advantage? I think it depends on your state of mind. I don't disagree with you. I mean, I know for me, certain places I'd go fish at Rayburn, I won't even put my kayak on the water now. I'll use my boat. And typically that's just because it's a long ass haul to where I'd want to go. And there's no way to really get there quickly on a kayak, you know? So I think it's subjective, but I do believe that it does have its advantages. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but you start looking at the numbers and say, well, what anglers how have anglers done that have motors and have not? Gino he's online now, and he hasn't had a Torqeedo. I think he's got a Torqeedo now because I've seen the box that showed up at his house. But he didn't have a Torqeedo, and he's whipped most people's ass all year. So did he need one? No, he didn't. So I think it's subjective. Now if you're in the California Delta and you want to cover a lot of water, it's going to change the way you plan your day. Just like Rayburn, Toledo Bend, once you get in these big bodies of water, get on Erie. I mean, there's a lot of places where it is it's an advantage period. So,
okay.
Well, it depends on the body of water, I guess.
Right. Christopher's got a good question here, mainly because I've got one. Is the Blue Sky 360 going to be allowed in KBF tournaments? Now, last time I heard from Chad, he said no. Because of the width of the boat. To me, it's still a human. I mean, if you're allowing motors, I mean, this thing, and if you're just having pedals on it, it's still a human powered vessel. So, I mean, but it's his rule. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, as the guy that gets to write the rules, which is me, and it's not just me, it's Joe and I, and obviously Chad has a ton of feedback in it. I think just based on, after being at ICAST, it's not just looking at the Blue Sky. There's several boats out there that have that same hull configuration. I don't even remember exactly. I think Aaron's on here. He may be able to drop in what the new width on the new big rig is. But the boats keep getting wider. And so I know as far as the Blue Sky goes, it meets the length requirement, doesn't meet the width requirement. Currently, but it may be one that Chad and I are going to sit down and talk with Joe, and we're going to run through it later in the year. And then probably, I imagine like later this month, just as everything kind of slows down. Chad's filming now and has been for days. I actually left Toledo Bend after filming some the other morning on the big rig. So as soon as he gets done with all that, we're going to sit down and go through. But I don't doubt that you'll see several, what's the word I want to use here? There may be a trial of several different boats to see how they fit into the equation. We just really need to sit down and talk about it. Guys have asked for, float tubes. I mean, you name it, it's been brought up to review. So we've got a lot of things to review on there this year. Right. Oh yeah, so Aaron's right at 40. Yeah, you're right at 40 for the new big rig. So
the Blue Sky's 48.
Yeah. Just snip some stuff off the sides, put those pontoons closer together.
Trim it up a little bit. Donnie asks, is KBF going to ban auto-inflate life jackets?
That has not been brought up.
Of course, I personally think,
I prefer the list now because Donnie brought it up.
I prefer if you're going to have an inflatable, having a manual inflate. Obviously, I prefer the CO2 from Kokatat, which has inherent flotation, and then you can pull the cord to get more flotation. So that way you don't have to rely on something working. You're going to float, but if you need additional buoyancy, you can pull the tab. And that's the Kokatat CO2. It's my favorite PFD, hands down. What do we have? What are your thoughts on pre-fishing kayak tournaments from a bass boat?
That's a great effing question. We had this come up last year at the national championship, and at the time I was kind of like, well, look, it's in the rules. I'm not going to change it. The day of the national championship is a little late. I personally, and I own a bass boat, I'm not a fan of it. In all honesty, I'm not a fan. It's one of the things that we were going to review this year. And I'm not a fan of it because of the fact that I know what it means. I know what it looks like. I mean, it's it's screaming across. You can hit any spot you want. You can cover a ton of water. I just personally think it's an unfair advantage. That's you think a boater on a kayak it is an unfair advantage. Go pre-fit, bring your bass boat to a tournament and have your kayak sitting in it, and then just haul ass across the lake. And mother shipping's not allowed, but guys, I'm just not a fan, I guess, to put it mildly.
Well, there you go.
And that's from a guy that owns a boat. I mean, owns a bass boat. I'm just not. I don't think it's the right. I don't think it sends the right message, personally.
Well, sure, you can get around to different spots and check them out a lot faster. But I think you should pre-fish it how you're going to fish it.
Yeah.
And so that way your limitations, how far you need to go, time-wise. I mean, that's all part of pre-fishing,
right?
Knowing what kind of distances you can get back to the launch to be back in time and everything else. So, here's a great question because I know you're just on the boat. Richard, what are the differences, or are there any, between the original and new big rig? And that'd be the big rig HD FD.
Yeah, well, obviously one difference, there's a flex drive. That's the easy one. I think, and I was on a pre-production model. So there's going to be some changes. I didn't have the new seat on it. The horizontal rod storage for me, because before we had one on each side in the gunnel. Now you can actually put 3 on each side. You can kind of put one down underneath the holder. And then you've got 2 where you can just clip them right in on each side. So for me, that's a huge deal. If you're going with the HD, just the HD version, take the flex drive out, put the pod in. It's just a big open floor to have a dance party in, which is cool. I mean, I know, Jim, you want a skinny boat that's long and fast. I got you.
Well, the big rig guys, I always said, if you want a boat you can stand up and dance on, that's it.
That's it. And I like the fact that it's very flat in the middle. It's a little bit wider. That hull with the extra width is actually, with the Torqeedo, it's just as fast, if not faster, because I've done no trimming around like I did with the OG big rig. I had batteries up front. I mean, I moved everything around to get to where I could, get 5.3 consistently out of a 403. And just where it felt right paddling it, I just threw a motor on the back of this thing and I've got that speed without trimming, without doing that stuff. I've got that speed. It turns on a dime. The bottom of that hull design, I absolutely love. Aaron Steiger and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. I really like the way the boat's laid out. So for me, it's a win for the guys that are fishing, because Jackson listened to a lot of our feedback, on what we want to see out of a bass tournament style fishing, Yeah,
boat. I just saw it. I saw it briefly, and obviously it was a prototype at ICAST. Mm-hmm. And that whole drop-in pod is large. You use the flex drive because obviously you can pedal it, or throw on the upcoming e-drive. Right. So how big was that? I mean, how was it cumbersome? Did you do any swapping out of it to see how that all integrated or anything?
I want to say it's 8. I mean, you're looking at 8 pulling 8 bolts out to swap that out. So it's not something you're doing on the water. But it doesn't look like it's going to be a big nightmare either, I think
what's cool about it is for somebody who is kind of, like I said, more entry level on it, you can get it standard, you can get it with the pedal drive, and then you can move up to the e-drive if you want. You can do any of those things. Yeah, so it's a single boat you could grow with.
Yeah, and I think that I can't give specifics on it. But I think that price point on that e-drive is going to make people go, what the hell, and not in a bad way.
Yeah, and that's going to be kind of initially. So if people are interested in it, it's going to have to be in the early stages because they want to get that e-drive out there. I know they're going to go at damn near, it's going to be selling it at damn near cost. And I don't know how long that'll last. But then it will go up significantly. So
but like I said, it's going to be, I think that boat, I mean, really, really do think that boat is going to be for the tournament angler. I hate to use that term, effing game changer, because it's used way too often. Hollywood's using the shit out of it now. I mean, it's that good. So yeah. So I'm really pleased with the fact that you can do, you can steer by hand, you can steer with your feet. The tracking on that boat, for those that have been in the Coosa FD, Jim, you and I have talked about this. The tracking in the Coosa FD, it's not great, and they've got a new rudder kit out now to fix that. But the big rig doesn't have that problem. I mean, I like move that thing over and just hit the throttle. And I had the big 1003 on the, I put the 1003 on that thing, and it was clocking it into the wind with a drained battery at 5.9 miles an hour without a problem.
That's moving along.
Yeah.
And
the boat's stable. I mean, you'd hope at 40 inches wide it's stable, but I went and stood on the front of the boat, and they've got it. I mean, the film crew got it, photos and video, but I'm standing on the front of the boat just fishing. I mean, now, how often am I really going to be doing that? Well, hell, I don't know. It depends on where I'm at, if I'm, playing the sight fish game, but or standing up there, relieving myself after drinking, way too many bottles of water on the lake.
Water.
Yeah, water. So, yeah, Chris, it's still not a Hobie Pro Angler. No, it's not a Hobie Pro Angler, and I'm okay with that, Chris.
Yeah, I don't understand, John. No Jackson development. Okay, I'm not.
He's replying to Chris on the E-Drive, I believe. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not a cooperative with Torqeedo.
Oh, you know what? There's a bunch of questions popped up all of a sudden that I missed.
For the love of God.
Any more info on the new Torqeedo? And for people, again, who don't know, Richard works very closely with Torqeedo. Any more info on the new Torqeedo 1003 motor you were testing?
So the deal is, I mean, I'm testing the 1003 just to see kind of how it holds up on the back of, on the Jackson boats in particular.
Is that a tiller boat or tiller motor?
Well, it's the tiller. Well, it's the tiller motor, but it's take the tiller off and mount it just like you do the 403.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Twice the power. And so the 1003 is working great. I mean, I had a pre-production model, so there was no on this big rig as an example, and there weren't any hole inserts to mount the power pole mount to. So I drilled right into it, mounted my power pole and motor unit, and that thing handled that big ass motor without a problem, the torque and everything else. Jeff Little with Torqeedo is actually testing. He and I talked today. He's testing the new 1103, which will be that kayak version, the non-tiller style, with a little bit longer shaft and a new prop as well. So, and there's a lot of little new features, but I think it's got no reduction gears in it, so it's very quiet. I mean, ridiculously quiet. Like it can be running and you have no idea. So make sure your little magnet is on. Yeah. But just all reports I've gotten from Jeff today, as we were kind of going through some stuff, is how well that 1103 is performing. So we're looking forward to that. I think that's going to be another little ump, and it fits within that 3 horsepower range that that KBF has had going for years. So we're not going to change the rules to support the new Torqeedo, that kind of thing.
John is saying need to add a battery though, and I assume you're talking about the E-Drive. The E is a separate battery. What their whole idea there is that you can buy the motor and you can power it with whatever battery you want. If you already have a big old deep cycle marine battery, you can use that, or you can invest in a high-end lithium-ion battery. Chris is asking, it jumped right as I was clicking. Chris is asking, is the E-Drive cooperative with Torqeedo? No, Torqeedo is a separate. E-Drive is made by Jackson Kayak. They have made that. And again, like I said, it does not come with a battery. And that's one of the amazing things about Torqeedos is those fantastic batteries. They're so powerful and yet so light.
And water friendly.
Yeah, very, very. I mean, they're just well designed. What do you want from Germany? Question about KBF NC.
He sent me this question just before we got online. I haven't answered it yet. I got to
give. Does that include the Texas portion, or is it capped at 25 mile marker?
That is a great question, and I am going to have to look into that. I believe it's capped at the 25 mile marker. But excellent question, and I don't know, maybe something I got to open up to the Texas side. I mean, I'm from Texas, so of course, I'm game. So, Tim, we'll get back to you on that one. But great question, and I did see your message earlier. I just, I had to get on here with Jim.
So the last I read, if the lake is listed, it's the entire lake.
It should be, but I don't want to lie. So
right,
I'll restrain it to the 25 mile mark, and then when we find out it's Texas included, then everybody wins.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is these tournaments, man. It gets that's the part I don't like about the tournaments. It's just like people asking questions about the rules and then trying to work their way as close to the rule as possible. And as we've seen, it has brought out the worst in people. There's cheating in the tournaments, and it sounds like what you guys have done rules wise and everything. You guys got a pretty good handle on when there have been questionable things.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jim. A lot of that, lie to me. A lot of these things that come up, though, it's the anglers policing the anglers. We've had, and it just doesn't show up on the KBF, forum or Facebook page. I mean, it shows up on other places, and so local clubs, whatever, start to see a trend with a certain angler. So we end up in the background dealing with a lot of those things. We don't go public with it, I think, quite as often as it happens. And sometimes that's, quite frankly, just because I'm not going to say anything until we've got it locked down. There's proof. There's someone willing to file a dispute on it. And honestly, you just give the angler enough rope to hang themselves. And more often than not, that works. It takes a little bit of time, but some states don't want to prosecute if there's no money involved. We've had a situation with that recently where, Chad was like, he wanted the situation prosecuted to the fullest extent. And when he gets excited, I mean, good luck talking that dog off the bone. But it was one of those deals where locally it was like, did any money change hands? And the answer, no. So that's when, and then DAs are just not going to chase it down. So, a lot of times we'll sit back, we'll watch. I take a lot of feedback. We've had some stuff here in California where guys are like, hey, you need, take a look at this person. And so that's what we do. We take a look at it, make sure we've done our due diligence. But more often than not, we're not tipped off per se, but anglers are policing themselves. And it doesn't always have to be within the KBF, within the confines of KBF, There's several other groups out there. Kayak Bass Nation is one of them. Local clubs that they either are or are not affiliated with KBF, but they damn well know who to call, or they figure it out. So and once again, that's that thing about the community that I've enjoyed. I mean, like everybody, we can go crazy from time to time and go high and ride on some people, but I mean, that just is what it is.
Well, the biggie, the big event, the national championship, the big prize. I know that they shot it for Chad's show. He had a lot of cameras there and got a lot of publicity. It looked like a great. How many? There was a lot of anglers in that thing, right?
Yeah, 727, I think. But and so I mean, look. It's going to be a 3-day event out of Bossier City, Shreveport in 2019. We are going to cut the field to the top 100 the final day.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah, so we're going to cut the field down, which is going to help dramatically. So this one, I'll tell you. I thought 2018 we had some. Well, 2017, we had some issues. From a variety of things with getting things done on time, and they were nowhere near on time, let's be honest. So we changed our format in 2018 about how we were going to do business, how we were running the event, and all the safeguards we put in place. So we made sure we weren't keeping people up till effing 4:30 in the morning. So we pulled that event off. It went off real well. Really pleased with it. Got a lot of great feedback. Everything on the outside looked like it went well. You know how this goes, though. What they don't see behind the curtain, it's all good. So we had some stuff that we can make better. We got a lot of great feedback. Louisiana stepped up huge with what we're going to be able to do for this next one coming up, 2019. So I'm stoked. I mean, it's kicking it up to a whole different level. I'm stoked, but I'm like, shit, I'm going to need to take 2 weeks off because it's going to take a week of hustling just prior to that event even starting to get everything done, I's dotted, T's crossed. But it's going to be a good event. I probably need to cap Chad off about January 1st of coming up with any more ideas, because there's that many flying. After I cast, it was crazy. I think we had gone 10 feet down the road in traffic, and I had a laundry list of like 17 things that Christy and I and Lynette were going to try to pull off, just for the national championship. So,
how does one qualify? For the big show.
There's a variety of ways. Local clubs. I mean, we have our partner clubs that are tied in. They get a requisite amount based on membership, based on how long they've been with KBF, whether it's a brand new club, inaugural, kind of deal, or they're, a legacy partner. That's one way. The other is the state challenges, finishing first, second kind of deal there, which our state challenges are over. Most of our partner groups are all wrapped up for the year as well. We've got the trail events, so those are all over. We just did the trail championship, but the trail events we've had throughout the year, we had 44 this year, I think down to 43 by the time scheduling kind of played out the way it did. And then we have a few special events coming up. We've got one that's running now on iCatch. We've got another one that we're gonna drop out there here pretty soon. So I think we'll get everybody there. I think there's gonna be some last minute people that want to jam in. I mean, Brooks reached out to me today and say, "Hey, how can I get a qualifying spot?" I said, "Well, you better stand by and get ready to fish your ass off because there's only going to be there's very, very few opportunities now." But I think, with the way we've got things laid out for 2019 with the trail series, that it's, going to be each region's top anglers performing against each other and then going and performing, all those regions performing against each other there is going to line that out. You're going to see your top anglers throughout the U.S. and the national championship. Like I said, it's kind of a spectacle. Well, not kind of, it's a spectacle, but right. It's sponsors are throwing a lot of stuff at it. We'll have a lot of sponsors on site, a lot of great deals. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a good event. It's probably everyone's gonna be like, oh shit, we're going big. We're getting big time. It's going to look a little more FLW BASS mindset. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to crank out a couple of questions here. John asks, there was talk last year about having marshals at the national championship. Is that still something that might happen?
John, good question. I honestly don't know. It was one of those things that we looked at pretty seriously, and then we just didn't have a way to effectively get it done without putting a lot of a pain in the ass on the anglers. Who wants to sit at the boat ramp and wait for a marshal to show up? And if the marshal's late, then you got another issue. So we're still looking at it. We're looking at a variety of other things how to, I guess, best police ourselves. But you can damn sure bet we're going to continue to push that. So, John, if you have any other ideas, please feel free to let me know.
Christopher says, is there a plan B if the Red River is unfishable for day 3?
Yes. And unlike the fact that Chad released that it was Red River for day 3, I'm not saying shit. But yes, yes, Chris. Chris, look, that Marine knows one is none, so he knows there's a backup plan. It's all good.
We have Richard. How is the early bird entries looking?
They're looking good. We're over 100. That I know. I got that from Joe last night. So that ought to tell you something as far as how those early bird payouts going to go. But we're over 100.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ramel, will KBF be coming up with a system to rank anglers to separate the amateur and pro divisions?
Yeah, Ramel, yeah. As soon as we get there, when we get to that piece, we will. Chad and I haven't even got to the stage of sitting down and having that hard conversation about where we're going to break people out at. Some guys will probably get to that situation where, like you see in some events, guys will try, they'll want to go to that pro division, but they may not be able to afford to. They may not, really be at that skill level yet. Or you'll get guys that are nowhere near that skill level, but say, I've got the money to throw at it, so I'm going to go fish the pro level. You never know. Because, every once in a while, a squirrel finds a nut, they can put a big bag together,
Yeah. We got another question here. So did iCatch get most of the bugs worked out? I don't even know what iCatch is. So
iCatch is one of the other, we've been using Turniax for several years as far as the tournament software. So we've looked at others. We've looked at iCatch, we've looked at Fat Sack, we've looked at iAngler, we've looked at a variety of things. So iCatch is working out. They've got most of their bugs worked out. The answer is yes. There still needs to be some changes with what we want to see on our end, or what, quite honestly, I don't want to see, which is certain selections and certain things which make getting your pictures taken more of a pain in the ass up front. I'd rather you have to select stuff on the backside when you've got good pictures and your fish are hanging off the side of the boat. So they still got a few tweaks to do, but there's a few other systems. I think probably in December we'll roll out another challenge on another system just to get angler feedback on it. It'll be another no entry fee. Let's see what it looks like and go from there. But, we still work with Turniax. Dwayne at Turniax is even, who owns Turniax, is even having a fish and angler event right now down on Lake Fork in Texas. So that ought to be entertaining.
Okay. Well, we just cranked through those questions there, and we're reaching the top of the hour here real soon. So if anybody has more questions, bring them in quick. Wesley, why not break it down to state championship to reduce the size of the championship field?
Wes, are you talking from on the trail side or what level? That's my question.
Well, and my guess is what he means is just bringing the size of the. That final big kayak, we're talking 700 guys, maybe to whittle that down.
Well, and that if that's the case, I can answer it now. It kind of it really boils down to, what do tourism bureaus and all the, and sponsors really want to see? Do they want to see, hey, here's the top 100 guys? Well, the answer to that is no. You want to see why BASS and FLW are kind of suffering the way they are is because when these tourism bureaus and stuff say, hey, we'll throw XYZ at you dollar wise to have you come to town and run this big event, which allows us to run these big events. When you do that, but you only show up with 100 anglers and they stay for 2 or 3 days, there's no return on investment for the city, the state, et cetera, et cetera. So, we have to look at all those variables. And for us,
I really like the idea, like you were saying earlier, is, you have to qualify for day 3. So, if you're not one of the top 50 or 70, whatever you decide to cut it off at for the final day, having less anglers, then you're still bringing in all those people. They all want to be a part of it, and they're all still going to stick around for the festivities and to see who won.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, we are going to do on day 3. So the guys and gals that don't, hey, look, we didn't make the top 100. Well, we're going to have another event, like a big bass event, on the bodies of water that aren't fished for them to compete in still. So, it's not like they're dead in the water, kind of deal at all. They can continue to fish. That trip is going to be worth it for them across the board. And then, like I said, a lot of this group is the camaraderie. That's what kind of makes us tick. Going to that top 100 when we do the final presentation, with the top 10 or 20 finishers on that final day, I think it's going to be great because we'll pull their boats in. They'll get a lot of great stuff with their sponsors. We'll get to blow that thing up, in true Chad blow it up fashion.
He's good at that.
Good. Oh yeah, don't nothing get me started. Jim, So it's gonna be good. Like I said, I gotta keep it all crazy. Thoughts of a KBS sportsmanship? I'm looking at Brad. Just asked a question. Sportsmanship Competitive's annual award in honor of Rebecca. I'm guessing it says nominated by the anglers. You know, Brad, that's a great freaking idea. I know Chad is playing around with a lot of different things. Chad was very close with Rebecca. The upside to that is Chad's got a lot of great stories. The downside to that is he struggles to tell them right now because of just the pain that it is. I mean, so there's not going to be any shortage of what we're going to do to honor Rebecca in the sport for sure. What was the question? I think someone just asked another one on. I was rolling through here myself.
I like the other ones better. It's just like hands down best webcast episode I have ever watched. Thank you,
Hey, that's a win.
Woo! Ryan actually had a question about, can you fish multiple regions next year?
Yes.
So how will that work?
Ryan, so right now my thought process, and I haven't got this thing all dialed in completely, but if you fish, you know, it's your best 3 events as far as qualification or for your AOY points per region. I think that's what it's going to be. So if, you know, even for your Angler of the Year points within the trail series. So if you're, you know, if you got 2 really good finishes in your region and then you've got a crappy one, but you want to go out of region to work on your AOY points across the board to compete, you know, I don't see why that's an issue. In fact, great example is going to be if you live in Louisiana, you know, you may want to go fish the Texas side because most of these tournaments are Dallas, Fort Worth, North, and East. So, you know, you've got a great opportunity to fish multiple regions. And quite frankly, I think you should, you know, especially if it's going to give you a better opportunity to increase your AOY points. The idea we had behind this was just a lot of anglers not wanting to have to, you know, I've got to fish 4 trail events. I got to fish XYZ state challenges. I got to fish XYZ regular challenges. I wanted to try to alleviate that. And that was all the feedback that Chad, Christy, and I had from all the anglers this last year. So we just decided we change it up a little bit, but I'm open to feedback on it as well. So if anybody, you know, that's watching this says, hey, here's some other ideas, you know, now's the time to drop them in.
Well, and as we said earlier, you know, don't come with complaints, come with solutions.
Oh, trust me, Jim, they will. They'll come with a solution. They'll come with a lake to fish, a time of year. I mean, it's trust me, these guys they're on it. They're on it.
So, man, we've been on an hour. It flew by. It really was a great show. Can't thank you enough, Richard, for coming on here, and for everybody who joined us with all your great questions. This will be available on YouTube. This will be set for a podcast as well. So, you know, there'll be different ways. If you didn't hear the whole thing, you'll be able to go back and listen to it in your car or whatever. Again, thanks so much, Richard. If people want to find out more about the KBF and all that, where should they go look? KayakBassFishing.com. You know, that's obviously we're on Facebook. I hate driving people to Facebook all the damn time. So, but the website is really that best source for info. Guys got questions for me directly. They can reach me at richard@kayakbassfishing.com. Or they can call me, send me a text, 619-569-3065. That's actually on kayakbassfishing.com as well. So, you know, whatever the questions are, you know, keep them coming all day. All right, man. Well, I look forward to talking to you a little bit more very soon because you and I are going to work on rigging up that blue sky.
Yeah, I'm anxious to do that, Jim. I'm looking forward to dropping those 2 motors on there just to see what in the hell that looks like for sure.
Oh, it's just going to be fun. So I'm going to drop you out of here, man. Thanks again, and I will be talking to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jim. I'll talk to you soon.
Right. Well, thanks, everybody, and thanks, Richard, for joining us. It was a great show. It flew by, and as always, we ran over our normal hour allotment. The show is, as always, brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company. Always remember, please, if you're going out on the water, always wear your PFD. And hold your paddle right side up. Take care. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Kayak Fishing Show live. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to Kayak Fishing Tales. We'll see you next week.